Right. Hey, y'all. Happy Witching Hour. It's High Priestess Jamila. That's High Priestess Jamila. How y'all doing? All right. I wanted to come because I just now felt comfortable talking about this, and I'm just now getting an opportunity to even explore. Um, just randomly after getting some work done, and I'm gonna spritz it and pepper it and finish it in the morning. I won't be here long. But I wanted to talk about what I experienced leaving Georgia. And I'm just now divinating because there's been so many other things that I've been having to do and dealing with. And so I threw the cards and I'm going to like really study it. I like to, if I don't really have time to look at my readings, I like to take photographs of them, document them because the numbers, the symbols, all of it means something. It does. It all means something and it's all relevant, which is why it's not always the best thing to rush through readings. Sometimes you want to give uh, readers even a couple of days, sometimes even up to a few weeks or longer to actually throw the cards. And what I've started doing is doing that and then just compiling those messages that I'm getting for sometimes even several weeks after. Okay. And so I've got the read in front of me, which I didn't check to see what was at the bottom of the deck. I'll look at that in a minute. But I had the strangest experience. And so, first of all, I just want to say that when I warn people about moving to Georgia, it is certain types of people. If you are an empath, if you are someone that is in the craft but has not quite developed yourself or put everything into place to protect yourself, you don't want to move to Georgia and particularly anywhere near the Atlanta area. Maybe if you go to Savannah, you might be okay. But Savannah is over there close to the coast. They get all the hurricanes. It's ridiculous. So, you know, but Georgia can be okay for some people. And I'm not saying that everybody that lives in Georgia has to be corrupt or anything like that. I want to make sure that we're clear. But there is a lot of corruption. And I don't believe that in the past decade at least, which was how long I was basically essentially trapped and stuck there. I do believe that for probably 90% of Black and Indigenous women, be careful of not being lured down there because it is a lot of hype. It is one of the worst places to actually raise a family, especially if you're Black, especially if you're single. And then also if you date Black men, you have to be very careful down there. No shade to Black men. Y'all know I love you. There's a lot of good Black men in this world. I'm not saying anything negative, but down in Georgia, it is just crawling and saturated with a lot of corrupt people. A lot. And they're doing all kinds of rituals. It's all kinds of secret societies down there. I was hearing that some of these spiritual men down there, they're keeping women trapped in houses. We all heard about Nature Boy. and what he was doing to women. So, we know that it's the truth. Okay. Hey, Stevan, happy witching hour. So, don't some people don't make a rash decision to move to Georgia. In fact, I remember when I moved to Georgia, the one mistake that I made was that for some reason, and which is why I said that I was lured down there for the slaughter of me and the slaughter of as many of my children as possible. Luckily, my daughters, they were with my mother at the time, and I was going to send for them. And it was already some issues and problems with their father or whatever, but it was a good thing that, everything turned out okay. But the mistake that I made was that I didn't tell my mother, and that was because I knew my mother would stop me. And if I would have told my mother, she would have stopped me and saved me 10 years of torture and hell. She would have. So don't just go down there, don't do it. Don't. Even if you are Christian, we know that in the South, it's the Bible Belt. It's still not safe for you. In fact, if you're Christian, makes you even more vulnerable to what is going on down there. Okay. And I was marked for death down there, not necessarily by the government. I'm not going to speak on the government anywhere. Okay. Just no. Like, I'm not going to do that. What I know about it, I keep to myself. But what I can tell you is that it was done by private citizens, and it's a lot of private citizens doing a lot of things. They doing a lot. They doing too much. So you guys know that I had a hell of a hard time getting out of Georgia. It took me 8.5 months, almost 9 months to get out of there. So it was really weird because women are pregnant for 9 months, and I guess mine came a little bit early. I gave birth to my salvation a little bit early. And the whole time that I was there, before I get on what I wanted to talk about, the whole time that I was there, I felt like I was trapped. I felt not just the stalkers that were following me and stalking me around. I felt like spirits of the land there was stalking me. In fact, if you know the whole story, you know my side of the story, which is the right side. Okay. Um, if you guys remember, shortly before we were in an extended stay, just kind of hold up in the extended stay, just kind of confused, wool pulled over our eyes, but still having the direction and the instinct to know what to do. I was actually staying at that hotel across the street because I had to stay there for 4 days. Because you could only stay at the extended stay for 28 days. Okay. And that one was called the Motel 6 Studios. Okay, it was just a hotel. They tried to make it into more than it was, but we were staying over there. And while I was there, I actually did some root work with the dirt, to work on those spirits, because there were many, many land spirits that were attacking me. And see, this is when I ran into this one lady that does videos on here, and she was talking about Georgia. And then, but anyway, finally, we were finally able to escape 2 weeks later, because depending on who you are, but I do believe that there's heavy activity of very heavy energy harvesting there that is not present in my hometown, nor will it ever be in the state of Missouri and Kansas. You're not going to find that. It's not going to ever be welcome. For some reason, over in the South in Georgia, the energy harvesting is real. In fact, the sun is even different. I felt like a piece of bacon being fried. It was so weird. Every time you step outside, it just seemed like the sun just fried my skin. It was really weird. I'm a high yellow black woman, but I'm not that damn high yellow to where, it was just like weird, you know what I mean? Anyway, so there were several rituals that were done leading up to us leaving, and and if you ever need my guidance, I've got everything documented and dated that I ended up having to do ultimately to get myself out of there. The very last thing that I did was I did make Theodore, who is my spiritual husband. He's actually a little small doll. He's got white pants and a green top. Okay, his whole head and torso is green with white pants. And 6 days after making him is when we finally got the breakthrough to get out of there. It was awful. Okay, and it was not just the stalking activity. See, a lot of people make a mistake and they just blend and mix everything all together. Everything is not necessarily connected. You can have several different people, several different groups, several different covens, several different congregations, um doing different things to you for different reasons. So it's not just, you have to break those things down. One problem can be connected to one big issue, yes, but people, when they want to do something to you, they are going to always have different reasons, different ways of doing it, which is why a lot of you guys who call yourself quote unquote the chosen ones, it's not no easy way to do it, and it's not cheap. It's not something that anybody is going to want to deal with for free. It's not. So, it just is what it is, okay? Um anyway, so we finally left out of Georgia on August the 18th at 11 o'clock at night. And I got to tell you that it was the best bus ride I had ever taken in my life. It was at night. The bus was really smooth. It was a very smooth ride. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I thought several months prior to that, but I did end up doing this ritual sometime in February to take some stuff off of me that was actually stopping me from traveling. It was giving me uh motion sickness. It was something that was purposely put on me to keep me stuck in one spot so that I wouldn't move. So if I got too far away from home, I would get dizzy. If I even thought about getting on a train or a plane, I would get mild anxiety because I beat anxiety years ago. So it was some things that was put on me that I actually healed myself from back in February, but there was still so much work that needed to be done that I still needed assistance getting out of there. And when I made Theodore, I named him Theodore. He is an Aries. He was made on a Tuesday. He's of Aries. He's an Aries zodiac sign, and it is what it is. Okay, it was the best bus ride ever. It was so relaxing. The seats could recline back. They didn't. Those seats actually on that first bus that we got on really reclined back. And so above you, what you could see was these blue lights because, it was nighttime and it was just really relaxing. And I had never felt so good in my life. The further and the further I got away from there, the better I could breathe. And I just felt like it just felt good. It felt good. And the bus was, when a bus goes over bumps or whatever, it just felt like a gentle rocking on that first bus. We actually had to take the first bus to St. Louis and then St. Louis to Kansas City. That second bus was a little raggedy, broke down a couple of times. But the internet was better because you just got straight up high speed internet with no, so the bus, but it was really good leaving there to just, and I just went to sleep. I just went to sleep, and slept very well. Well, by the time we got, this is where the story starts right here, what I'm getting at. By the time we were already out of the state of Georgia, and I think it gradually happened, and I didn't write it down. I should have. But I noticed that my ankles started swelling, and I never get swollen ankles. They're normal now. I never get swollen ankles ever. I never have swelling in my legs. I never have that issue. I don't. Well, for some reason, my ankles began to swell up. It was really weird. So when you take a bus, the bus is gonna make stops often. Okay. So like if you need to like if you want to smoke, you're gonna get plenty of smoke breaks if you're a smoker. So of course, and then they even stop at restaurants. The traveling by bus is not that bad. I know that there was a story about somebody that got beheaded on a bus not too long ago. Don't let that scare you because we were perfectly safe. Just take your spirits and warriors with you and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Won't happen. But so the bus, they'll stop nearby certain restaurants. They'll give you about 15 minutes to either smoke or you can grab something to eat or something if you're hungry. It was only a 24-hour bus ride, which was not that bad, but for some reason my ankles began to swell. And by the time we got to St. Louis or St. Louis, my ankles were swollen, my feet were swollen, and it was very painful. By the time I got to Kansas City, I could barely walk. It was really weird. I was like, what is this? They stayed swollen up until later on that night. I was able to get into a hot bath, and that was the only thing that stopped the pain. They were in pain. My ankles were hurting. They hurt to the touch. It was awful. And so when you're riding a bus, it does have these footrests down at the bottom for you to prop your feet. Something else was going on there. And I got confirmed with that with my cards because I just asked, and the first card that I got that came up was the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands is connected to the root chakra, but that's also your legs and your feet. From what I could see from the cards, is that I was being released from something. It was really bad. It was some kind of bondage or curse or hex or something that was keeping me there. And it was so painful that you could tell that whatever it was threatening my very life. It was so painful. I couldn't do nothing but sit with my feet propped up. And like I said, as soon as I got in the bathtub, it took it all out of me. Okay. And I never forget because Yamaya came to me that night as well, and she helped me out a lot. And so it was some kind of curse. It was almost like both of my ankles had gotten bit by some kind of snake. And my ankles let me know you really had something on you. And it was very, very real. So that's why I was telling you that even though there may be death magic or death intention or some kind of death work done on you, it may not necessarily manifest as death, but it'll manifest as other very annoying things. But sometimes it will. Um, and it's something that you really want to kind of take seriously. Because whatever it was that was on me while I was there, it did attempt to cause famine, wanted me to essentially what I could sense because my spirits kept walking with me all around where I was at. My spirits kept walking with me. But whatever it was trying to bring death to me to get me killed or something like that. And so I was aware of it. And it was the whole time that I was in Georgia. So right before we left, right before we were even permitted to leave, there was work that my spirits had me personally do to make sure that because I knew we were getting ready to leave, I just knew it. One thing that we did was made sure that whatever that was could not follow us. And it did not. It cannot follow us. Once your spirits have said something, whatever God it is that you worship, hopefully it's not these demiurge or whatever that is, these AI false gods. Hopefully you're not doing that. But my gods that I trust and believe in basically made it so they can't follow it. And I'm not talking about a stalker, I'm talking about those spirits. So from what I could see from the reading is that basically there was some kind of metaphysical happening. Something was happening to my ankles to where something was being released on some level. Something was being released out of the trunk of my body, but for some reason it chose to come out through the ankle. Now, luckily, what I was grateful for was that it didn't cause any kind of death. It did not. It came out through my feet, my ankle. And so, like I said, I was able to take a bath. And, if you ever work with Yamaya, like even if you take a shower, but she recommends a bath, but taking a shower does the same thing. Whatever it was, I did add like 3 drops of peppermint oil and about 3 drops of eucalyptus, in my bath that night. But whatever it was, she killed it. She got rid of whatever that was, it must have been something because it literally was just on my ankles. And it was weird because I kept my feet propped up the whole time because it took like probably like maybe several hours to get from St. Louis to Kansas City. And they just stayed swelled up until I got in that water. And, it was able to get released out of my body. And by the next day, actually not even the next day, it was like literally an hour later, my legs had went down. Like the ankles had went down significantly. And a few hours later, they were completely back to normal. So, that's how you can tell and distinguish actual health problems from spiritual issues, is because literally all it took was a warm bath, and it went away. The pain went away. It was very painful. All of that went away. And from what I could see from the reading, like I said, that Two of Wands came up first because I asked why, but then that Ace of Pentacles came up in the upright position. Seven of Pentacles came up upright. And what those first three cards means is that there was something that was attached to the root chakra, probably, which is why I started my cycle not too long after that. But it was something to have to do with my womb, my heart, and it was that it was that part, that energy leaving me, uh that of which was literally trying to pretty much essentially enslave me. It was really scary when it happened. I've been pregnant 4 times and I've had swollen ankles, and my ankles had never been that swollen. They had never been that swollen ever in my life. And I've been pregnant 4 times. And so I know about some swollen ankles. I couldn't even move them. By the time I got somewhere and sat down, I could not move my legs. Every little move just hurt real bad. And finally, after sitting there for about 5 hours suffering, was when I got in the tub and everything was fine. So um I wanted to share that story. Also in this reading, I got 4 5s. I'm sorry, 3 of the 5s out of the deck. 3 of them. Ace of Swords inverted, 4 of Swords inverted. And that's probably part of that evil eye. I hate that damn evil eye. We figured out what to do about that. And then also this 3 of Wands that comes up in the inverted position is telling me males wanting to take my free will away from me. I'm disgusted by that. I have an allergy to that. I'm allergic to misogynistic, controlling, dominating men. I'm allergic to that. Seriously. I'm not talking about just normal men who assert themselves and say, "Hey, no, I'm talking about men that literally want to put women in cages." You know what I'm saying? Males that are that crazy and mentally ill. That's why I said mentally ill people shouldn't pray, and they definitely shouldn't have access to any kind of spiritual stuff if they're going to be doing things like that. That's just not right. But I went through that and they've been normal ever since. But it's just so weird that when they first started swelling like that, I said, yeah, I said somebody had, I thought to myself, I said, yeah, somebody just, it's pretty much a manifestation of, what was going on down there. It was very strange. I felt like the whole time I was in Georgia that I was in Archonville. But then again, you know, I am a firm believer that you can be across the street from somebody and still be in a different reality. And for some reason, it was daily when I was in Georgia to where it was like, it seemed like I was being almost hijacked into another reality. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I believe that it's got something to do with some people that are into religion. It was really weird. I had been around Christians and Baptists my whole life and had never experienced anything like that. So it's, it was really really bad. It was, I have family that are Christian and had never experienced anything like that in my life ever, and I don't want to experience it ever again. So it was just very weird. It was almost like it was kind of like a movie. It was kind of like a movie. It's like, what in the, oh, this ain't real. You know what I had to do to get out of there? I had to stay focused. No matter what was going on, I knew we had to get out of there. I knew it. And you know what? It was so much things to distract. Even in the air, you could go outside and you could sense it just trying to come through. Even though there was work that I was constantly doing, I felt like I was just bombarded. And it wasn't necessarily that I was outnumbered. It was just that it was always constant focus on work, because whatever it was trying to make me stay there, and I would have rather it been dead than stay there. There was no way I was going to stay there in Georgia. Not after knowing what was going on, not after everything that had been done. It was over for me. And so I'm telling y'all, it wasn't until my spiritual husband, and his name is Theodore, and I wouldn't be messing with him if I was you, because he don't play that mess, okay? It wasn't until I called to him that finally things got done. Finally. Know what I mean? Like, it was really weird. It was really, really strange how things just started happening, you know, for the good, for the better. I felt more protected. Prior to that, I just felt constantly persecuted. Um, and I didn't feel like it was genuine. My experiences with the church, which I've always experienced nothing but unconditional love from the church that came with no abuse. This was more like fake, contrived. I'm going to use the Bible verses to try to condemn you and to convince you that this is what I have the power to do. And when you ask why, the answer that you get is because I'm a pervert, pretty much. It's based upon perversion, and that's it. Nothing else. It's not and you guys know that I'm not Christian anyway, even though there's certain figures that have been mentioned in the Bible that I am very familiar with. One of them is Samael, which I know is Samael is going to be very controversial. I haven't sat down and worked with Samael yet, but he's lingering in the shadows. Just FYI, he's one of the gods of Mars, which I'm thinking that perhaps maybe Samael could be Aries, but I don't want to disrespect Aries by just assuming that. So I'm not going to make that assumption because I always wait. If I have questions like that, I always ask spirit and I wait for answers. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, the god of Mars, Aries, is really Samael. I'm not going to say that because like there's like 80% of my intuition telling me that no, that's not true. They're two separate people, but they may be similar. Um, which we know that Samael ended up husband of Lilith and all of that stuff. So it's so as far as like Abrahamic figures and stuff like that, I am very familiar with them. But that was because I was suffering from abuse from religion that I had never suffered from before. And it was long term abuse, and which to me, it will always, I feel like it's always going to affect me to the point where I'm going to always be pagan. It's never going to be a time where I'm going to say, hey, I'm turning my life over to Christ, because I feel like Christ already loves me. I don't feel like Jesus Christ hates me. In fact, I have my own theories about Jesus Christ that I have stated that has really irritated people. I've stated that I felt like Jesus Christ and Lucifer is the same person. People don't like that. Whatever. It's a possibility. I don't know. But what I do know is that it was one of those experiences that let me know, do not take this for granted. Do not. And do not ever take anything for granted. Don't just be lollygagging around here like that. More confirmation that I should have never, ever, ever went to Georgia. Ever. I have a lot of guilt because of that too. Especially when it involves my mother that I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a lot of emotional stuff. Like, I feel like I did abandon my mother. Even though my grandmother says, no, don't feel that way. That's not the truth. Everything happens for a reason. But I still feel bad because, you know, um, you know, and from what I'm picking up and sensing is that the experiences that I had in Georgia was meant for me to experience that, but not to that magnitude. Like there was something else that was interfering. Almost like the work that I was doing in Georgia, which did involve the land, the spirits of the land. There was a lot of extra stuff that was included with that probably shouldn't have ever been happening. Like, for example, working with the spirits of the land and then connecting with old ancestors that were directly connected to the Trail of Tears. Things like that are things that I probably would have gotten down to Georgia, only, connected with that, only stayed there for about 2 or 3 years and came back a long time ago. But it is what it is. When you really look at time is it exists, but then again, it doesn't exist. So it's one of those things that you can't really trip on. But I know that until there was so much distraction and drama and this and that, there were certain things that I would notice when I was in Georgia. Like, for example, there would be certain locations that I would drive by when I had my car. Or either, if I were riding with somebody else, I would drive past them and I could just feel this awful, dreaded feeling. And so those were things that it was meant for me to explore. It was definitely meant for me to explore Georgia for a little while, but to stay there for 10 years almost, it was not. I feel like something actually it actually was exactly a decade. I moved there in 2015. And so I was in Georgia for 10 years. The last 4 years that I was there was when I essentially was ready to leave. I was ready to leave shortly after my mother passed away. Had never really thought about it previous to that. It is what it is. It's all a journey. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all a part of your journey. I don't have any regrets at this point. I really don't. I can't complain about how things turned out because I did make it out, because it was something that was really, really, like, it was on a daily basis. It was a struggle just trying to really keep my head up and keep my head clear and just stay positive. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what I had to do. And I don't think that it is necessary for a woman to have a man to make it. Okay. In fact, there have been plenty of women who have survived with no husband and no kids and with no family. So that's actually not the truth. But why wouldn't you want those things? But then when somebody is telling you that you're not worthy of anything because you don't have a man that loves you, and knowing that you do, he's just out there somewhere. I'm gonna suggest for a lot of you ladies that are suffering from that, you need to get connected to your spiritual husband. You do, because he will help you. I don't agree that you need that. I mean, if you're a lesbian, you can say your spiritual wife if you want. Because I hate that. For me, trying to make a relationship with a man a necessity takes all of the fucking fun out of it. Like, I can't just be with you because I want to be with you. I got to be with you because I need you, or I'm going to be stigmatized, or the world is going to be mean to me. What the fuck? I don't like that. And it's one of the things about society that I will never agree with, ever, ever. Okay. I will never agree with that. Yes, having a man is great. I love men. But if it's not the right man, it's not the right one. And I think that having that attitude has led so many women to be stuck in these relationships that they don't want to be in, that they're miserable in, to where they eventually end up becoming a walking shell, disconnected totally because, you know, they feel like, well, I can't make it on my own as a woman. Relationships should be not just about one thing. A man shouldn't just help you financially or back you up financially. He should also back you up emotionally. He should be emotionally supportive. He should be physically supportive. There's so many other elements of having a partner. Okay, so yeah. And so I think that that is going to be key to doing that. I mean, I actually did a spirit husband doll for a client. Hold on, y'all. I did one of those, and I created him during the month of May on a Monday, which made him a sun sign Taurus. Client immediately reported good things back to me, positive things that were happening for her. But then, less than a month later, she actually met a Taurus, actually met him in real life. So it's really mysterious the way that that happened, right? Like, literally, she eventually met him, and they are still married to this day. They got married really quickly. They are like a super couple. Like they're just awesome. They just exude this positivity. It's so beautiful. But so yeah, that part right there. So those, having creating that spiritual husband is so very, very powerful because he will eventually come into your life. Okay. And he'll be perfect for you. Okay, it's weird. He'll be a real person, but he'll, doing the for some reason doing those spiritual husband dolls will definitely bring him into your life. Okay. Cause she called me, I said, well, when I made the doll, I said, well, I'll make him a Taurus. And he's got moon sign aspects, so Cancer, Pisces, water sign aspects, because I made him on a Monday. She calls me like 2 weeks later and she's like, you're never going to believe that I met a Taurus. She's like, what did you do? And she was like, it was so weird the way that he looked at me. It was almost like he knew I had asked for him to come into my life. So don't be distracted and don't be sleep on them spirit husbands. They will manifest in your life if you want them to. You can specify that you want them to manifest in real life, but they're probably going to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing wrong with that. I've been dealing with these little crazy stinky boys for years. I never forget my first boyfriend when I was 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing. Aside from all of this stupid, dumb gender war and men being like, oh yeah, we've got to oppress the woman. Aside from that, having relationship with boys is so fun, and it's very rewarding. It doesn't have to be hell. It doesn't have to be war. Stay away from the ones that make it that way. They got problems. They got agendas. But anyway. So that's pretty much it that I wanted to talk about. I had been waiting to speak about that crazy manifestation of the so-called death binding. If you leave, you're gonna die. What? No. Mm-hmm. All bullshit. Whenever you hear something that you don't agree with, that you don't like, call a motherfucker's bluff. Don't ever be scared of these damn evil spirits out here, y'all. Unless you evil. Only evil people fear evil. Good people don't fucking fear evil. But evil can sometimes manifest in your fucking life and you be like, oh God, I need some fucking help. Okay? And you'll get the help that you need as long as you're worthy. Because I'm sorry, the evil shit that I see people doing that be unnecessary, that ain't even ordained by their own God, is kind of ridiculous. It's like, hold on, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. I won't keep y'all because it's 3 in the morning. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed this live. If you're watching now or if you're watching a playback, make sure that you hit that thumbs up. And I'll allow y'all to leave comments to maybe see what y'all think about that, like what you're picking up on. If it's a crazy comment, you getting blocked. I don't need. Hey, if you leave a stupid crazy comment on my channel, I'm not gonna leave it. I don't want your comment. You're gonna get deleted and hidden from this channel. Trolling doesn't get a voice on this channel. Trolls and imps don't get a voice on my channel. Okay. But if you're a real person, and I'll even post the reading, a picture of it, and let y'all give y'all interpretation of what y'all think it could possibly be. Okay. Or like that ankle swelling that I had for like half a day. I think it was like a half a day. It was really weird. I was, and of course, the implications of swollen ankle. But this shit just came out the blue. Ain't nothing wrong with my heart. I can walk my ass off, do cardio. Okay. Don't let them curses and evil spirits convince you there's something wrong with your body. Anywho, y'all have a good one. Okay. Have a happy Monday. Blessings to you guys. Bye bye.